So we've already removed the intake valve covers. These are held in place by Phillips bolts. The exhaust valve covers are sealed with silicone, so most of the time you have to pry these off with like a breaker bar or a pry bar. I wedge it right here in this location and pry upwards. Those are held in place by 8 10mm bolts. I've already removed all the bolts, so that was just for demonstration. For the front, we have already moved the driver's side valve, the timing cover. That's been removed. So for the passenger side timing cover, you need to remove these water inlet and outlet pipes. These are pretty much held in place by these what are these? Torx bits? Not Torx bits, but Allen head bolts. And the lower pipe has one Allen head bolt and two 12mm bolts. So once you have those off, you need to remove your crank pulley. This one requires a 27mm socket, preferably with an impact, because if you try to break it free with a wrench, you're just gonna rotate your whole rotating assembly. So once you get your crank pulley off, you want to make sure that you hang on to your woodruff key. That's pretty much so you can you know the location of your crankshaft, your crank pulley. When you get that off, you have several 8mm bolts. One is in that location. You've got another one down here. Behind your AC bracket, you have another one in that corner. And then you have another one in this top corner of the AC bracket. And you have one in the top and the second one over here. Once you get the passenger side timing cover off, after you've removed all these lower timing cover bolts, you can remove it, and then you have access to your timing belt. You want to make sure you remember the orientation of these washers. This one has a beveled edge, and it goes facing towards the crank pulley. If you put it backwards, this will eat away at your timing belt. These are interference engines, so if your timing goes bad, you have a high possibility that you will damage your pistons and bend some valves. So when removing the timing belt, I like to put it at top dead center for cylinder number 1. When these cogs line up with the timing marks in the back, when you remove your timing belt or when you remove your tensioner, these are already in the neutral position, so they will not shift in either direction. For your tensioner, you have 3 12mm bolts. Once you remove them, it's 2 bolts and a nut. You can remove your tensioner. And your timing belt is ready to come off. So you can see the free play that these have. These are at rest. All the valves are closed for these two camshafts. This one, they will snap closed in either direction that I rotate it, which is fine. Now that one's at rest, and that one's at rest. So the next step is to remove all four cam sprockets. These 4 bolts are 11. I believe these smaller ones are 7mm. Behind this cover you have oil which will come out, and you have a spring applying tension on this. And whenever you put these back, you want to make sure that that spring is in place, otherwise you will have problems with your VTC engaging. That is a 19mm bolt. I have seen different methods of getting these to break loose. Some people like to wrap the old timing belt around it and apply tension with that. I have 2 methods of doing it. The easiest method is if you have a strong enough impact, you can just break that bolt loose. But I also have an old-fashioned hammer which I like to use. And I place it right there, and it locks it in place. So when I'm loosening this bolt, the hammer is locking the sprocket in place. There it goes. Broke it loose. You want to make sure you don't lose this O-ring as well, because the last thing you want is to put this cover back on and you start seeping oil through here. And once you have these covers on, you're gonna have to remove all these water outlet pipes just to fix this oil leak. And these are your cam seals. They're very common to go bad. They start seeping oil, and then it starts flinging it onto your timing belt. A good indicator is once you remove your timing covers, you have oil all over this area. Method 2 of breaking this bolt loose is with an impact. And that's a pretty easy way to get it off. To remove this cast bracket, you have the option of removing your crank angle sensor first. It's held in place by 3 10mm bolts, or you can remove the whole bracket itself with 3 12mm bolts. In our situation, we're going to remove the whole bracket with this attached, because we're going to have to remove this sprocket in order to remove the rear timing cover. While you're here, you want to inspect the teeth on your crank angle sensor. Very often you can have a cast misalignment, and these teeth will get worn down on either your crank angle sensor or your camshaft dowel, and that can result in a situation where you're driving down the road and you suddenly lose, your car shuts off on you and it won't crank on anymore. Now we're going to remove these exhaust sprockets. These are 11mm. Once you've removed all 4 of your sprockets, you only have 4 10mm bolts. this cover. Once you have both rear timing covers removed, all you have to do is start removing your cam caps. Now with these, it is critical that you maintain them in the order in which you remove them. Swapping cam covers can result in your camshaft seizing because of improper tolerances for the lobes. So I've already removed all the cam caps. And this is the exhaust passenger side camshaft. All of these have already been removed. I'm just gonna lay them in the orientation in which I removed them. The lifters, you just get a magnet and pull them out. This is the JWT tool. You can buy it through Z1 Motorsports or through JWT's website. What you need to do is provide compressed air into the cylinder, and what this tool does is it compresses your valve spring so you can remove the valve keepers, and you can disassemble the valve assembly without dropping a valve into the cylinder. Once you've got it compressed all the way down, you get a magnet and grab your keepers. There's two. Take it back apart. Take that off. Valve spring. There's a special tool you can use for this, but I just use these hose clamps. There you have it. It's the valve seal. This is a brand new one. You just lubricate it on the inside. You could use pliers, or if you have small enough hands, just sit it on top of the valve stem. You could get a 10mm deep socket, lay it right over the valve seal. Give it a few taps. When you feel it bottom out, it's installed. And the reinstall is just everything in reverse order. You put your spring first, the retainer cap, JWT adapter, Once you've got your spring compressed low enough, these half moon keepers, you want to make sure that the biggest part goes towards the top. It has a lip right there just to keep it in place on the valve stem, and the smaller portion goes facing towards the bottom. What I do is grab them and I drop them in place. Sometimes you will need a pick, or you can use a long flathead screwdriver to press them in place. So right there, they are seated where they need to be. And you could back out on the bolt to return it to its normal position. And that's how you do valve stem seals on a VG30.